Hi, scholars. Welcome to today's math lesson. I am going to be your guest today. So, a quick review as we get started on today's work. So, 5,200 minus 372. We've been working on subtraction with exchanges quite a bit. To do this problem, right, the first thing you should do is write it vertically, 5,200. Minus 372. You want to make sure you're getting it lined up in the correct places, right? If you start here, you're saying it's 3,000. This is not 3,072. So get it lined up correctly. And then we're going to subtract, of course, starting at our ones. 0 minus 2. We can't take 2 away from 0. So more on the floor. Go next door. But next door is a 0. So we have to go next door again. We're taking one of our two hundreds, leaving 100, and bringing that back here, which is then 10 tens. Now you might notice that did not help us back here in the ones place. So now we have to take one of those tens, which leaves 9 tens, and bring that 110 and make it 10 tens. Sorry, 10 ones. 10 ones minus 2 equals 8. Now 9 tens minus 7 tens. So 9 minus 7, 2. 1 minus 3. Oh, more on the floor. Go next door. So I'm making an exchange. 11 minus 3 is 8. Comma. 4,000 minus nothing there, so 4,828. 4,828. Then scholars, if I wanted to check my work, right, then what I would do is I should be able to add those two together, right, the two parts, should equal, if we did everything correctly, the whole 5,200. 8 plus 2, 8, 9, 10. 1 plus 2 plus 7 in our tens place is 10. 1 plus 8 plus 3, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1 plus 4 is 5. Our comma between our hundreds and thousands, 5,200. We have a match. So, working carefully on our subtraction work. Hopefully you did well on Tuesday's quiz. It brings us into our work today. What are we going to work on today? Today, we are going to continue with a little more practice with two-step word problems. You are correct. So remember, scholars, two-step word problems means you're going to do one problem, and then the answer to that problem is then used on a second problem to get to the answer to the question that we're being asked. That's our work today. You can join me on page 60 in your workbook for work on a problem together. All right, scholars, here we are on page 60 in your workbook. I thought it was best today to do our lesson right in the workbook, looking at the page together and filling it out. So I will go hopefully at a slow enough pace that you can follow along and copy this in with me. And then I'll pause every once in a while, or tell you to pause and figure out an answer to something, and then continue on with the video. So step 1, we need to read the problem. There were 3,245 people at a parade. 1,400 of them were men. 980 were women. How many children were there? So, do you remember what we do first after we've read the problem? Right, we underline the question. So, how many children were there? Then we write an answer sentence. There's a nice line right down here. We want to leave a lot of space here for our model drawing and our problem. So down here, right on this line, nice big space open for our work. How many children were there? There were blank children. That's an answer to the question. How many children were there? There were blank children. Now, we put the blank there, mathematicians, because we don't yet know how many children there were. That's what we have to figure out. Now, is this a part whole model or a comparison model? What do you think? We're talking about men, women, and children. So scholars, this might be our first one where we've had 3 unit bars. Right? So there are men, there are women, and there are children. All right. Now, when we make the unit bar for each of these, we want to make sure we're starting in about the same spot. So if I'm starting the men's unit bar here, I want to also start the women's unit bar here and the children's unit bar here, right? They should start at about the same spot. Now, they're not going to end at the same spot unless they're the same number, but we want them to begin at the same spot. So let's start with the unit bar for the men. Do you know how many men there are? Did you say 1,400? Absolutely. Now, let's go to the unit bar for the women. I want to make my unit bar, but am I going to make it bigger, smaller, or the same? I'm going to make it bigger. Wait, is that true? 980. Oh, 980 is less than 1,400. So I want to make it a little bit smaller, right? Because 980 is less than 1,400. So 980. Then I need to make the unit bar for the children. Now, I don't know how many children there are. So I don't know right now if I need to make it bigger than the men and women or smaller than the number of men and women. So for now, I'm maybe just going to make it a little bit lightly here. And I don't know how many children it is. So I'm going to put a question mark there. Scholars, I might have to adjust this a little bit once I know my answer. Now, what about this 3,245? There were 3,245 people at a parade. Oh, that would be the men, women, and children. So I want to show that all of them together is 3,245. Now, how am I going to find out the number of children? If all 3 of these together equal this, I could find out how many men and women there are together, right? And then the rest of them will be children. So 1,400 plus 980 would tell me how many adults there are. That's important. So scholars, pause for a moment. Find that out. All right. Did you add that and get 2,380? 2,380. So that, scholars, I'm going to circle it, and I'm going to write it over here by this question mark, because now I know there's 2,380 adults. But that did not help me with the number of children. So think for a moment. What problem do you think it would be to get to the number of children? The total number minus the number of adults tells us how many children there are. So our second problem, 3,245 minus 2,380, would tell us how many children there are. Pause and find that out. Let's see how you did. 5 minus 0 is 5. 4 minus 8. Oh, this is just like our review at the beginning today. 4 minus 8, more on the floor, so I have to go next door. Make that exchange. So now 14 minus 8 is 6. I'm moving to my hundreds. 1 minus 3. Oh, more on the floor. Go next door. Make another exchange. 11 minus 3 is 8. 865. So now, scholars, I can label my 865 right here and cross out my question mark. But guess what I now know about my unit bar? 865 is the smallest. So now I can darken my unit bar and erase this little bit so that it's a little bit smaller than the 980. And then I fill in my blank. 865 children. Phew! Nice job.